coaching. Kunoa coaching.
Welcome to today's Kuno podcast, everybody, or Tea with Marie, as I call it, because I've got a tea again. We've got Mark with us today, and Mark's going to talk to us about, as you can see in the background if you're on YouTube, but for the listeners, Mark's background is about his book, Better Leadership. So I'm going to go to Mark now and ask him, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do and how you got there?
Sure. Thank you for having me on here, Marie. I appreciate it. It's great to be here. Who am I? I am a leadership consultant and behavior consultant right now. How I got here is probably after 20 years of military service in the United States Navy, and then 16 years in the corporate world supporting back to the United States Navy. And I decided at the time that I've had some success and I know a little bit about leadership, that I would begin to teach it. And the avenue that I chose was via the John Maxwell team, which is a huge team of over 41,000 coaches, led by John Maxwell himself, who is remarkably the biggest producer of leadership books in the history of the world. Think about that for a minute. No one else has produced more leadership material than this man, John Maxwell. And I've met him, I've talked to him one on one, and he is a humble man. But that's the avenue that I chose. So I'm licensed to use some of his material. But as you said, I did produce my own book recently. It was published in October, called Better Leadership. So that's who I am and how I got here.
It's real pleasure to have you on today, Mark, because I've been looking at kind of the things that you do, and you kind of talk a lot about how a leader needs to prepare themselves. And we've talked a bit about this on the podcast, but I think it's a topic that needs more digging into. So where do you kind of start when you want to be a leader, but you need to do some self-development first, don't you? How does that start?
Absolutely. It starts within yourself because you can't give away what you don't have. So, first thing that a leader, if a person sits down and says, I want to be a leader, well, what do I do well? What area of life can I lead in? What area of business? If you're a mother or a father, how do I lead? Okay. So you have to find what your strengths and your weaknesses are. And I know when people hear that, they kind of like, ooh, that sounds very serious. And it's not that serious. I don't want you to feel that you have to sit down and examine yourself like you're going to a counselor or a mental health professional. You know yourself. You know what you do well. For example, I do well with meeting people, making people feel comfortable around me, and engaging in people and be friendly. Other people are good at math. Other people are good at details. Other people are good at processes. So you have to figure out exactly what is it that you do well. And the key part is, why do I want to lead? Where is it do I want to go? So you have to have that vision, and that vision comes within yourself of why do you want to lead? Because there's great leaders in the world, and some of them have led for good reasons, and others have led for bad reasons. Just think of the bad people of history or the bad people of today that have done things that have hurt people or been a selfish reason for leading. So I think it starts within you. Why do you want to lead and what do I do well? Because you want to do what you do well, you want to lead in because that's the area that's easy and its strength because you're going to lead other people. In leading other people, you want to perform your best.
It's worth considering that as well, I think, because we were talking earlier, and leadership can be extremely lonely and it can be extremely complicated depending on the team and what's going on, etc. So when you're kind of
Mhm.
looking at yourself, what kind of mindset aspects do you need to be considering? I mean, sometimes when you're leading, you kind of fall into that role and you take over the team and you naturally lead. But if you're thinking about going into a leadership position as well, what might you want to be thinking about?
I think it's a mind shift change. It's a mind shift change. So there's many people out there, yourself included, myself included, that do a job very well. And when we go into that job, we think, what do I need to do? Do I need to write the computer software? Do I need to sweep the porch? Do I need to make this product well? And that's great. We every business, every family, every organization needs people that do stuff well. But the key there was, what do I need to do? When you consider yourself being a leader, and everybody can be a leader, everybody has the ability to be the leader. You have to see yourself as a leader. But when you say, okay, I'm going to lead now, you have to make that mind shift to from what I need to do to what we need to do. And when it goes from we, that your mind immediately expands and they have to look at the big picture. What do we need to do to be successful? Whether it's a Fortune 500 company, if it's Amazon, or if it's a mom and pop tea shop, what do we need to do to be successful? So the first thing is that mind shift from me to we.
And that's a really powerful shift, I think, because instead of thinking about how you personally can get stuff done, you then start to think, well, I've got all these people. And then actually, that opens a whole new barrel of complexities, such as how do I get the best out of my team? How do I make them happy? How do I give them the roles that will develop them? So, how do you kind of start to look at
Mm.
that and break it down into a, manageable exercise?
Very great point, Maria. It is. It opens up a whole new barrel. It opens up a whole new barrel of monkeys and opens up a new barrel of problems. And that is the key. I think that's the fastest way to go up that ramp to make your leadership career go off the charts is problem solve. So you look at the people around you that you're leading and you see the problems that they're experiencing and you sit down with them and you work on those problems. And when you solve those problems, then there's bliss, to put it simply, right? So then they can do the job better because you've helped them solve the problems and to do the job better for the team. One by one, you create some momentum of problem solving. And notice I said sit down with them and work with it because now you are not necessarily the one doing the job. You're sitting down, helping them do the job. So you're serving them. So a lot of people think, well, I'm going to get in leadership because I'm going to sit up here in the organization and everyone else is going to sit down here and they're going to serve me and they're going to bring me tea and crumpets and I'm going to have the great office with the great view of the lake. No, that's not leadership. That's someone wanting to be served. When you're the leader, at least how I my brand of leadership is you are the servant leader. You create the environment to where you help each person perform their best, solve their problems, let them know that you're there behind them, and when you they know that you're supporting them, they walk through doors for you.
And if you're thinking about going into a leadership position for those reasons that you just mentioned, it is very advisable not to do that because it's very likely your team's going to run a million miles because that is not the right attitude. It's like you're saying, when you're a leader, you are literally serving your team to get the best out of them and trying to help them get where they need to be. You can't sit there and say, I want
Mhm.
everybody to do. It's not about that. And it's not about having a tea lady
Mhm.
servant or anything. So
Mhm.
when you're
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
when you're in this position and you've got a team and you start to have conflicts in it because it's never completely happy, is it? There's always something going on. Um, can it end
There's
up
always
being
something.
like whack-a-mole, just trying to stop all the problems?
It can be. It can be like whack-a-mole, and I think that the phrase the phrase that comes up when you said that is am I as a leader you got to ask yourself, am I working on the urgent or am I working on the important? And the urgent may be the urgent. If there's a fire, someone's got to put water on the fire, no doubt. Okay, but does that always have to be you? This translates into as a leader, you want to get people moving, going back to that vision. I have vision, and this is how we're going to, this is how I want to lead. And everybody's, you got to get everybody to buy in and buy into me and buy into my vision. And then we can move forward, right? Okay. So once you got that going, what you need to do is okay, which one of these people really do I see as a leader? And then you start develop them as a leader because you want to be the leader that works on the important thing and the thing that only you can do. And you want to find a leader that can lead maybe this section of the company, maybe this section of the team, maybe this section of the organization, and develop them. So when those whack-a-mole, which I love that term, then whack-a-mole problems come up, and problems will come up because I'm pretty sure everyone in the world is not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is perfect. And people do things. And so there's going to be problems. And we don't know what we don't know as we go on this venture of making a product or doing a service or creating a TV show, whatever it is. We don't know. We don't know. So we're going to have to deal with things. So as you create these leaders within your organization to cover production or cover manufacturing or cover sales, you let them handle the fires. Okay, you support them. You don't just say, handle that problem and you go play golf or you go grab a pint. But you support them and you obviously are in touch with them. You don't let them out there on the limb by themselves, but you develop the leaders within them, and then they can help you with those whack-a-moles. And it does one other thing. Now you have a leadership team, and it starts to chip away at that, what you said earlier, that feeling of being lonely as the leader. Now you have people that are in the foxhole with you and they're leading with you. Like I said, everyone has the ability to be a leader. They just have to develop it. It's a skill that happens.
If you're building your own team, and I've done this quite a lot with global teams where I've brought people in and I've not necessarily had a choice who came in, but I've been able to identify leaders to put into different areas, and they've developed and done really well with training. If you're taking over an existing team and you've got absolutely no choice in who's there, um, how hard can it be to try and build that team around you at that point?
Wow, that's a tough situation because you didn't choose those people to be there. And what I found is the people that come to my team, or the people that I would choose to be on my team, are people that are like me. It's a law of magnetism. So you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are, unless you're very intentional. So my advice to that person that was plopped down in this team and said go lead them is the first thing is you got to get to know your people. You got to find out what their strengths are. You got to find out what they do, what's their problems, what's their angles. Get to know them personally because you've got to figure out who they are and meet them where they are. This goes to the my behavioral consultant side of my leadership training is that it's called the DISC model. It's a four quadrant DISC model, but each person has different personalities. And when you learn those personalities and you can leverage those personalities, when you know how to do it. So, for example, if there's a person that's a C personality, which is very detailed person, it moves very slow. And if you know that about them, then you can leverage that person by putting them in a place where their penchant for details will thrive. So once you know, even though you're in the team and you didn't know them, once you know them, you can maneuver the pieces on the board to help them succeed. Because when they succeed, everyone succeeds, right? And that's the one of the great roles of the leader is help your team succeed because when they succeed, you succeed. They help the customers, they do the production, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you can help other people succeed, then you're most valuable to the company. And I think that's going back to, if I may go back to the what you asked when people were becoming to lead. And that's the change in mindset is some people say, well, if I help them be successful, why does the company need me? Because I'm not doing it. But in reality, you're more valuable to the company because no matter who comes to the company to work, you help them succeed. That's what we're here for, right? Let's make money. Let's serve. Whatever the goal of the company is. Now you're the thing that motivates them and makes them be successful. So when you help other people, don't feel as though now I'm useless. Actually, you're more valuable.
You're listening to the Kuinua podcast. If you want to ask a question to our experts, just go to kuinuacoaching.com and you will find the link to the podcast where you can leave us a voice message or send us an email and we will ask your question direct to the expert. That's kuinuacoaching.com. Kuinua Coaching is set up to offer mentoring, coaching and courses in leadership, negotiation and soft skills. If you're interested in finding out more about what Kuinua Coaching has to offer you, you can get in touch via Facebook,
Instagram, you can type Kuinua into Google. You can email us on kuinuacoaching@gmail.com or go to our website at kuinuacoaching.com. That's kuinuacoaching.com.
It's actually really interesting you say that, because one of my friends used to be a team leader, and she used to say, I know when I'm succeeding because my team succeeds. And if I fail, it's because my team's failing. So I'm not the person that matters in this. It's what my team does and whether my team succeeds. And that's contrasted with another
Hmm.
leader that I had that used to say, I'm the best and I'm getting all the bonuses and you lot have all failed, which was like, how
Well,
have you succeeded then if everybody's failed? But it was a
yeah,
case of, if you don't get the bonuses, I can get one. But that would indicate to me that if you're saying that your team's failed, then maybe you failed as a leader.
yeah, I agree with you. And going back to your friend is I love the fact that when the team succeeds, they succeed. And then the idea that when the team failed, I failed, because leadership takes responsibility for failure, but gives success to the team. Um, and as a leader, and the second example that you gave there, it goes back to what I said is, why do you want to lead? Do you want to lead just so you can get all the marbles in your side of the table? That's not leadership. That's manipulation, and that's selfish. And you can't be selfish as a leader. You can't be. Yeah.
Exactly. I think there's definite blueprints that you can follow to be a good leader. And I think putting your team before yourself is right up there in the top 10 of this is what you need to do if you're going to be a good leader. So talking about
Mm-hmm. Most
um,
definitely.
the team, the leadership team, how do people kind of deal with it if you've got change coming from above? And I've been in this position, and it's actually really quite difficult. And you have to enforce this, not really enforce, but create the change and then implement it into the team. And it's a complex
Mm.
change, and there's a lot of stuff going to go on. How would you advise people in that kind of situation where they're kind of dealing with things that are going on above and having to input into that and design the change, but then also implement it into a team?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, and it's a really important question, because change happens, and we can't stop change. Change is always going to happen. Uh, the world events of the last year have created a lot of change, but the thing about change is nobody likes to change. Nobody likes change. I liked having my schedule of, I had my coffee at 8 a.m. and then my tea in the afternoon, and we did our work in between, and I knew that I could call this customer, and I knew I could call this vendor, and we could all make this happen. So the first thing you have to deal with your leadership team and talk about, I believe, is, okay, this is a change. All right. So how does this change us? Our goal, let's go back to our goal, let's go back to our vision, let's go back to what we do, is what we're going to do fundamentally change, or how we're going to do it fundamentally change, or when we're going to do it fundamentally change. What exactly is the change, and how do the different people in the leadership team deal with change? If I go back again to the 4 quadrant disc module, people that have an intensity level in one of those four personalities, strengths, deal with change differently. So a D and an I deal with change very quickly. We're rapid with that. In fact, people say, "I, would you quit changing so much? Because you just follow through and fix something and get it completed?" But that's another story. S and C change very slowly. So your leaders, even within your leadership team, there's going to be how that change affects them. So you have to understand that and communicate that to that, is, okay, sales are going to make a big change quickly, but production's going to have to take some time to change. Well, how do we deal with that? How do we make that happen in a thing to where it doesn't slow everything else down? So you have to really kind of take a step back and look at the big picture, is, okay, how can we make this change and not let it hurt us? So probably an example that everybody may relate to is here in the United States, restaurants, obviously we're not open. So how can a restaurant make money when they're not open? Can't have people in them. A lot of them pivoted and said, bring in uh, online orders, and we'll start delivering. So they found a way to do it safely, and a lot of them have found that their profit margins went up because they had to pay less staff, less electricity because not as many people were in their dining room, and a lot of people that were home didn't want to cook anymore because one, maybe they didn't like to cook, or two, they didn't want to go out to get groceries. They were ordering food. So they looked at what they did and they changed how they delivered, and it turned out to be profitable for them. And some of them may never go back to have in-room dining because it makes sense. They still have their customers and they're making better profit. So it's a great example of stepping back. What do we do? How does this change affect us? How can we still deliver? And boom, they were successful.
A lot of it's about the big picture, isn't it? Really, when you get into leadership, you've kind of got to move back from the detail and really absorb the big picture.
Absolutely. Yeah, you must, because if you get your head down a rabbit hole, then you can't see what's coming behind you and you might get smacked in the fanny. So that's that.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to keep the big picture, right? Yeah.
Got to keep your eyes on all sides of your head at all times and keep looking for what's coming
At
down
all
the.
times.
Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
since you were in the military as well, and we've had a few people on a podcast that are military or ex-military, and we've got some people on the courses on the website that are. What do you think the difference is, or the transition is between military leadership and civilian leadership?
Such a great question. It is really such a great question. And it really was something that I struggle with. I'll be honest with you. I struggled with that transition. It took me 6 months to a year to really get my feet on the ground once I retired from the military. Military leadership is very positional, okay, and it's very structured. So from the day you get to boot camp and you're in day one of the military, you learn that this rank, this person, this guy, this gal kind of sets the law, just to put it simply, right? And you follow that, okay? And there's a certain structure, and that's why we have on all military services on our collar or on our sleeve we have ranks, and then you know what that is, and there's an expectation there, and you can expect X, Y, and Z from this person, and ABC from that person, and DEF from that person, and that rank, etc., etc., etc. So you know where you fit, okay? Now, how much you'll go to the wall or walk through a wall for that person is will be defined by how good a leader they are. But with the way the military is structured, even if that person's a poor leader, the decision that they make, you go with that decision because of the discipline within the military, and plus the scenarios that we get in. A lot of times we don't have to sit down and have a debate. We've got to take action or we die, right? And I think everybody understands that. So when you transition out of the military into the civilian sector, nobody has rank on their collar anymore. The roles are not defined as well. So then you have to kind of figure out how to survive in that world. Where do I fit? And it takes a while. So you have to kind of again, and this may sound repetitive and it may be too simple, but how it worked out for me was I took a step back and I looked at the big picture. What is really going on? What is my role in this? And then it became, how do I do best in that role? How do I perform? But then it also became more, who's really helping me in this role? Who's supporting me? Who's working against me? And because in the world business, it is competitive. Okay, that's the way it is. In the military, it wasn't very competitive. We all are after the same mission. We all want to survive. We all want to be successful, etc. And you have to kind of navigate that to find where those leaders are, to find where your niche is, to find where you can be successful. And there's, like I said, there's not a roadmap, if you will, like there is in the military. There are things that help. There's companies out there that help you, that coach you through things. That this personality model I talked about is a roadmap to people. And you really find out what a different style of leadership is, and I call it servant leadership. And you really find out the good leaders and the bad leaders because it doesn't take long to figure out what they're in it for. So it's a difficult transition, and I do some work with some organizations that help the military, and I feel them, but it is a difficult transition, and it is another education. Again, working on yourself, looking at yourself, what do I do well, and how can I help out best?
So talking about your book as well, because we really do need to touch on it since it's your entire background. What's
Subtle, aren't I?
It's great. There's a book, a Kindle, and a phone all with the book on it. It's fantastic. So what is
Thank you.
kind of the driving force behind your new book?
The driving force behind my new book is, I think I know the message that I wanted to communicate is, as we've touched on it, is that leadership makes a difference in your life. Okay. If you could, the first person you need to lead and the most difficult person you need to lead is yourself. Okay. And well, people, well, that's kind of strange. What do you mean lead yourself? Well, I relate to something everybody knows, food. You may ask yourself, did I eat the best food for me today, or did I sneak that piece of chocolate or that cake? Right? And maybe that's why I don't look so great in my swimming trunks anymore, right? So there's self-leadership right there. But every person on this planet has the ability and the opportunity to lead at least 10 to 12 times a day. And when I talk about leading, it doesn't mean I'm going to grab a flag and everybody follow me, we're going to go to the pool, or everybody follow me, we're going to go to work today. Did you have a positive impact on that person you rode an elevator with, or lift, as they say in the UK? Or when I was walking my dog today, did I make a positive impact on that person that I came across, or did I just ignore them and mind my own business? It goes to a rule that I live in my life. It's called the 5 foot rule, where if I come in with proximity of somebody with 5 feet, I make sure I look them in the eye. I at least say hello, have a good day, or how are you doing today? And if necessary, or if able, start a conversation with them. And that lets that other person know that I see them and they're important. And I think that's the essence of leadership. When you can make someone else that you're in company with feel important and engaged and enough to have a conversation with, that's leadership. So what I want to do is tell everyone is, if this guy can do it, the guy that couldn't get out of his own way a lot of times in life, then you can do it too. So that's behind what my book is I've had some success, I've had some joys in leadership, and it's made a whole total difference in my life when I realized that leadership was the key to being successful in my business, successful in my relationships, successful with everything that touched my life. And if they can take a piece of that and incorporate it in their life and they can be successful and happy, then hey, one by one, we can change this world and make it a better world.
So your book's called Better Leadership. When and where can we get it, and where can we find you on the internet?
Fantastic question. Thank you for asking. So, Better Leadership book, you can find it on Amazon, where you can find most things, and just Google the name or Google my name in there. And you can find me at my website at markmissigman.com. And you can reach out and contact me there, and I'd be glad to help you with your problem, because that's what leadership does. We solve problems.
And all of this is tagged below for the listeners and the viewers, so you can click straight through and find Mark. Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you very much for being a guest.
You're most welcome, and it was an absolute joy. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with your listeners and meet you, Marie. I enjoyed myself immensely. Thank you.
You've been watching on YouTube or listening on an audio platform to the Kuno podcast. If you like what you're hearing, then don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any amazing content, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Kuno coaching.